Well, so let's just get the timings right. Comparative timings, always good to do, Rita and James. So Albo spent, I think it was 4 hours in Alice Springs. He'll spend how long at the Mardi Gras, do you think? I mean, getting ready, getting dressed, parading down Oxford Street.
Well,
do you reckon he'll spend as long at the Mardi Gras as he managed to spend? Certainly not as long as he spent at the tennis.
No, that was 3 nights.
3 days and 3 nights.
That was just days and days and days. Well, this is going to be quite a venture because he's going to be the first sitting Australian Prime Minister to march in the Mardi Gras. So he's going to be front and centre, getting all that adulation from the crowds. But again, just look at the optics of this. Look at this being at some massive, colourful celebration in the streets of Sydney when the absolute mess that Labor have helped contribute to, both at federal level and territory level in Northern Territory and particularly Alice Springs, has not been solved. Yes, they've handed down a report. Yes, they've put back some restrictions on alcohol. But the crime rate there, the mayhem in the streets, the levels of abuse, the number of women who are being hospitalised for being beaten up by drunken men in their lives. Why isn't he spending that sort of time in Alice Springs on the ground showing he cares about this issue, given all he does is...
Here's a thought. Let's combine the events. Let's move the Mardi Gras to Alice Springs. Then he could do both. You bring employment to Alice Springs.
Was Priscilla's
yeah. James.
No, I was just going to say that, well, first of all, great that he's marching in the Mardi Gras. I want to know what after party he's going to wind up at, because I reckon that could be a bit more interesting. But it is a funny thing, because you've seen over the years Mardi Gras in Sydney go from being a very sort of, revolutionary, radical sexual identity thing to this very commercial, very sort of woke political sort of thing. So it's an actual sort of perfect endpoint that Albo winds up at this thing. But, you make the very good point. On this whole thing with his trip to the Northern Territory, where he spent 4 hours there, just four hours.
Possibly 6 hours. Let's not undersell it.
Well, let's also note that he managed the optics of that so cleverly. He didn't take the big VIP jet where he could have brought with him a bunch of, reporters and things like that to see what he was up to. He went on the small jet, which meant that, nobody could take, cameras with them and radio or TV with them like, they might normally do for that sort of trip. He wanted to keep that visit so on the down low. And they even, tried to, make it look on the flight radar like it was a different plane and stuff. It was just ridiculous.
Well, he got shamed into that visit. After consecutive days of coverage on Sky News, Daily Telegraph, 2GB was also involved. He got shamed into actually taking interest and having a presence there, though it was only for a few hours, and it seemed to satisfy the bulk of the media, which surprises me, because the problems there continue, and yet we've got Albo, like you said, at the tennis, talking about the Mardi Gras, marching...
Let me mention the Mardi Gras. So Albanese has said that the Mardi Gras parade, and he'll be making this point repeatedly during the Mardi Gras parade, that he's likening the Indigenous voice to the fight for marriage equality, for the same-sex plebiscite that we had back in 2017. Now, I actually reckon, Rita, of course, we go, how ridiculous, but I actually think he's on to something. Not in the way that he thinks. It is very similar, and the similarity is this. We were lied to in the fight for same-sex marriage repeatedly. Now, I was one, and there were others who said what is the end point of the same-sex marriage debate? I warned and others warned, and we were called slippery slope, all this stuff, that the end point would be an explosion in kind of the sexualisation of our kids, gay, queer culture being infused into our schools, the transgender movement moving into our schools, becoming de rigueur throughout corporations. That is what happened. Yet we were told, no, it'll never happen. It'll never go that far. All we want is a bit of love is love and a couple of marriages down in Paddington somewhere. Rubbish. The Indigenous voice is exactly the same. What you are going to see, they are lying through their teeth to you. The end point. Ask what is the end point of the Indigenous voice. And Peter Credlin wrote a superb article, and others have been saying this. The end point is where Lydia Thorpe wants to take us, which is sovereignty to black Australia. That is the end point. That is what the Indigenous voice is all about. And if you vote yes to the Indigenous voice, you are voting yes to the cessation of sovereignty of the mainstream Australia in order that there is a black sovereignty. That is the end point.